seconds away on Studio 5.
You told me to come out here.
Mac, this is happening inside you.
Taking you behind the scenes of the new film, The Shack. Production for the film unfolded over the course of 2 months here in Vancouver.
Don't ever think that what my son chose to do didn't cost us both dearly.
We're on set with the cast.
I wanted to be a part of this film because it means so much to me personally.
And taking a closer look at the best-selling book.
We're talking about more than 19 million people buying and reading this book. Any nerves going into, like, people love this.
I know what I'm talking about.
I'm nervous doing this interview right now.
No.
Plus, an exclusive sample of the soundtrack.
If you can know the stars in place, you can know my heart the same.
All in Studio 5, starting now. And welcome to Studio 5. This week we are at a lone shack in the woods to bring you a behind-the-scenes look at the film, The Shack. We'll get to that in just a bit, but first, like we do every week, let's count down the top 5 trending stories in uplifting entertainment. Let's begin with the first 2. At number 5, a child shall lead them. Facebook friends have viewed this 4-year-old worship leader's video more than 2 million times. And now, Caleb Tyler Serrano is lighting up the stage.
Are you a worship leader?
Yes.
Of the whole church?
Yes, because my papa is here.
Here on NBC's Little Big Shots.
Papa, stand up. Come on, come on. Yeah, come on, yeah.
At number 4, staging a classic. The Amazing Grace Broadway musical will begin its national tour in D.C. at the new state-of-the-art World Stage Theater inside the Museum of the Bible. It's the story of the man behind the song.
I was embarrassed. I didn't know anything about him when I started this project. And now, of course, I feel like the world needs to know John Newton.
Its 8-week run begins November 18th. And that's a look at number 5 and number 4. The countdown continues in just a bit. William Paul Young wrote The Shack in 2007, published it on his own. It has now grown to sell more than 20 million copies, and now it is a major motion picture. Here's your first look. We are the only television news crew allowed on set for this behind-the-scenes look at The Shack.
You told me to come out here.
Mac, this is happening inside you.
Based on the best-selling book, it tells the story of a father whose faith is shaken after tragedy, wondering how a good God would allow such a nightmare to happen.
There is a beautiful journey that you have to take that I realize now when you take on a role, well, the role of God. And it just shows you just how human you are.
Oscar winner Octavia Spencer plays the role of God, affectionately called Papa.
You know everything. You're everywhere all at once. You have limitless power. Yet somehow, you let my little girl die. When she needed you most. You abandoned her.
Sam Worthington is Mac.
I never left her.
If you are who you say you are, where were you when I needed you?
On the surface, Mac, initially in the film, seems to have it all together despite the things he's gone through. And then we learn, I mean, as the layers get peeled back.
I like kind of taking on characters where they
you know, they have these challenges within themselves, and then the challenges kind of ripple out. Like, I've done a lot of movies that are quest movies. And this, in a way, is like that. It's a quest to discover what your faith is, and you know, is what you believe in your heart still going to help you through the hard times?
As the title suggests, the setting for Paul Young's book is a lone shack in the woods. It's a story of love and loss he initially wrote as a Christmas gift to his children.
It came from 50 years of trying to find good responses to difficult questions. It took me 50 years to actually become a child. And then I was able to take 50 years of history and give a gift for Christmas to my kids.
Wow. What were your kids' response initially?
Thanks, Dad, a book. We'll get right on that. But when they read it, they were touched, every one of them differently, and that happens all the time.
So this book goes from self-published to selling 22 million copies, and now a major motion picture. When you sat down to write this story, did you envision all of this?
Oh, no. Are you kidding? I made 15 copies at Office Depot that did everything I ever wanted that book to do. So this has all been a monumental surprise. I think the grace and the kindness and the sense of humor of God, yes.
With success also comes critics, and I know that you heard
my
people,
people.
People being critical of the fact that of how you chose to portray God.
You misunderstand the mystery.
Though a work of fiction, some have called Young's depiction of God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit profoundly unbiblical. One seminary professor wrote his own book in response called Burning Down the Shack.
What do you say to them?
We need to be challenged about how we think. And a lot of times, people's responses are based in they're afraid. And I know that because I lived in that world. So when a person's upset, they're not coming to tell me about me. I already know about me. They're coming to tell me in the only language they know how about what matters to them. And if I'm not at risk, I can step inside that space. Maybe ask a good question, maybe stay silent, but respectful, because it is about the dignity of the other and the journey that the other is in.
And in Mac's fictional journey, he sees Jesus as a Middle Eastern man, the Holy Spirit as an Asian woman, and God as a Black woman.
Don't ever think that what my son chose to do didn't cost us both dearly.
How does Papa, you portraying that role, compare to how you may have pictured God growing up?
Very differently. It actually, broke a few conventions for me, and I like the idea of a regular person's conversation with God. Basically, the breakthrough for me was realizing that the Father is the Father. So I approached it as a parent to a son.
I think God is essentially love. You know, He's coming at you in a form of love. So whatever helps embrace and gives you that love, I think is a great idea.
Still ahead on Studio 5.
Absolutely. God is to blame.
Getting a bit more personal with the man bringing a heartbroken father from the pages to the screen.
Did you see any of Sam Worthington in Mac?
Look, I've built my shack. Say, like, if the shack is a metaphor for all the anger and the guilt and the resentment.
And welcome back to Studio 5. We are continuing our countdown of this week's top 5 trending stories in uplifting entertainment news. Here are the next 2. At number 3, a return to the big screen.
I would consider myself a spiritual person. I'm not hot, but I'm not cold either.
Following her War Room acting debut, best-selling author and Bible teacher Priscilla Shirer returns to the big screen.
I did not know if I would ever do another film ever again, not because I didn't want to, but because why would anybody ask me to do that again? That's what I was thinking.
Shirer joins Dennis Quaid, Cloris Leachman, and Trace Atkins in I Can Only Imagine, the film based on the popular song by Mercy Me band member Bart Millard.
Bart Millard really made a decision to discover his gift because he had a strong teacher who said, "You're going to do it, because I see something in you that you do not see in yourself." And so I could not pass up the opportunity to be able to just play that. It's a little small part, but I think it's a pivotal part to this story that led to a song that has blessed people the world over.
At number 2, the Facebook family grows.
Facebook has always been about building community and relationships.
With founder Mark Zuckerberg announcing he and his wife, Priscilla Shirer, are expecting their second child.
Itsy bitsy spider climbs up the water spout.
What? I'm a dad now. This is what I listen to.
Jarvis also
A dad times 2. Drake. And there is only one more left in the countdown. We're going to get to that in just a bit. Actor Sam Worthington has the starring role in the film The Shack. And he's actually got a bit of a shack story of his own. And he's sharing it exclusively with Studio 5 in this week's interview.
If you are who you say you are, where were you when I needed you?
Son, when all you see is your pain, you lose sight of me.
The conversations that this man gets to share with God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, there was something in them that I had those conversations at some point in my life and still now.
Don't ever think that what my son chose to do didn't cost us both dearly. Love always leaves a mark.
Did you see any of Sam Worthington in Mac?
Yeah, when I was, look, I've been, I've built my shack. Say, like, if the shack is a metaphor for all the anger and the guilt and the resentment and the frustrations we have with life and then we live in it, I've definitely lived in mine sometime in my life. And I've also struggled with, the questions that Mac has towards his faith and towards God of why is this happening to me and why does bad stuff happen to others, all these kind of massive questions that to some of us remain unanswered and challenging. And so that kind of, there's aspects of what I was searching for within that framework, yeah.
How have you settled those questions for yourself, or have you?
Well, as Mac says, he's just beginning his journey. And I think I'm on a journey. I came to my faith very late. I was in about my 20s when I kind of, was given a Bible to read by my friend to tell me to calm down. And, I was dating a lot of girls that were religious, so I would go with them to churches. It was never something that was put upon me as a kid. It was something that I've kind of been journeying on through by choice of discovering how faith can help people and help you become a better person. So, I think that by doing something like this, it was just part of that journey.
Some personal questions about your journey. I read, and you can tell me if this is incorrect, that your dad, when you dropped out of college, gives you $400 in a one-way ticket and says, work your way back home. Yeah, what was the story? What happened?
I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and my dad didn't want me sitting around on the couch watching TV and wasting this precious gift. So he said, he's always had a strong work ethic and he's instilled that in me. And so he said, well, I'll send you as far away on the other side of Australia to where we live and work your way back and go grow up a bit.
What was that journey like?
Well, however old I was, 18, 19. It's difficult, it's reckless. But you learn way more than I would if I sat on the couch and watched other people's lives. It was one of those kind of experiences that I look back on fondly, but also look back on and go, oh, geez, I won't ever tell anyone that story. But you're 19, 20, you're bulletproof, you think you can rule the world.
You have 2 boys now. Would you send either of them on a journey like that?
Yeah, probably. It's weird. I'm a long way off from those kind of big questions with my sons. So
yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. But I think any kind of journey, be it a physical one, a spiritual one, a self-reflecting one, I think is always important,
I also read that you sold everything at one point and lived in a car?
Yeah.
And what happened?
Before I turned 30. I'd had a solid career in Australia making movies, but I looked around at everything that I owned and felt that it was defining me, and I didn't like who it was defining and what it was saying. So, as I said, I looked in the mirror one day and decided I didn't like what I saw, so I thought I'd sell the mirror. And then, went and lived in a car for a bit and to figure out what I was doing.
Did you find God in that?
I think you
those
find
moments?
a lot of questions. As I said, I came to my faith really late, so I was about turning 30 when I did that. And the questions that you have are angry man questions. Why? What's going on with my life? What am I doing? Why am I here? You know, why is this happening to me? And I think that when I reached out to God, I got someone that listened for the first time and wasn't judgmental. And I may not have got the answers back, but I had a comforting ear. So when I reached out, when I'm sitting in the back of a car in the middle of the snow, angry at everything, and angry at myself, and angry at railing at everything, what I got back was, it's okay, you know, everything's gonna be okay, and that love kind of helps you through.
So has that changed your life, that connection?
Yeah, that there's someone always there. Being connected to God can help us connect to each other.
Up next on Studio 5.
So here I am, lifting up my heart to the one who holds the stars.
Sampling the music behind the movie in a Studio 5 exclusive. And welcome back to Studio 5. It is time for number 1 in our weekly countdown. Now to number 1, live on stage.
Next spring, Sight and Sound Theaters presents the greatest rescue story of all time.
Sight and Sound Theater announces Jesus live on stage for its next production. And we got an inside scoop on the storyline, 3 years in the making.
It's the love of God coming to earth, rescuing mankind. It's the greatest rescue story we've ever produced.
Every good movie needs a good soundtrack, and The Shack is no exception. Its soundtrack includes names like Lecrae, Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, and Lady Antebellum, and their music is what's playing in my ear.
Why did you bring me here?
There's no easy answer that'll take your pain away.
Where were you when I needed you?
I never left you. I never left you.
Ain't it just like a tear?
We saw an early rough cut of the film. Gosh, I can't remember when it was, but it was early in the process. And we wrote it with Shane McAnally and Laurie McKenna and Faith and I. We watched the movie. And of course, we were 6 or 7 times in the film. We're just flooded with tears for this film.
I want him to hurt like he hurt me.
We went back in a little room afterwards and sort of put our notes together. We'd all taken notes on the film because we were trying to figure out if we could actually sit down and really write a song for it.
You want the promise of a pain-free life. There isn't one.
In every one of our notes, the biggest note that we had was keep your eyes on me. And it came back to the simplicity of finding a mantra that can get you through hard times.
You can do this. I can't. But on your own, you can.
When Max stepped out of the boat and he said, I can't do this, and Jesus said, just keep your eyes on me, it struck a chord for us. And it made us think that that's what we wanted to write this song about.
This is your flying lesson.
We wanted to write this song that equaled the arc of the movie, that we had the pain in the beginning of the song, and then the redemption and the light and the beauty at the end, with the choir and with Faith doing those majestic things that she was doing at the end of it.
If you can calm the raging sea, you can calm the storm in me. You're never too far away.
The thought process that everybody was going through about what this film was about and how it made you feel, I think everybody sort of felt that on set. So I think that transferred itself in the making of the record.
I talked to God about you, and I ain't even met you yet. Everybody's waiting on you here.
I think the thing that draws everybody to it is what I'd said earlier, is the universal themes that this movie really creates and speaks to, and that's the search for forgiveness, the search for love, the search for hope, and finding your way again. And I think everybody's on that path every single day. And I think musicians are in tune to that in a lot of ways because we're musicians and our emotions are always pretty open. And so I think that really drew a lot of people to it. And there's a lot of faith involved.
And you can sample that soundtrack even before you see the film. It is available right now. still ahead on Studio 5.
We all live with two things, love and loss.
A final word from the man who gave us the best-selling book that became this major motion picture.
All of our divisions go away when we start getting inside eyeball to eyeball and talk about love and loss.
We are just about out of time, so let's take a look ahead to next week.
Were you always playing on God's team?
Well, I think I was always on it, but I wasn't playing, definitely wasn't playing the way he called me to play.
We're sitting down with actor and former athlete, T.C. Stallings.
And playing on God's team and letting God lead your life, your bumps and bruises make sense.
He breaks down the game plan for success and gives Studio 5 an inside scoop on his upcoming film projects. As for this week's show, I'm giving the final word to the author of The Shack, William Paul Young. He has a word about challenging the way you think.
We all live with two things, love and loss. All of our divisions go away when we start getting inside eyeball to eyeball and talk about love and loss. And so a lot of this comes rooted in loss. And I grew up in the church. I grew up with, Gandalf with the bad attitude God. And it took me a lot of time. It took me 50 years to actually become a child. And then I was able to take 50 years of history and give a gift for Christmas to my kids. How many times have we actually made changes that are beneficial in our lives when things were just going great? You know, we need to be challenged about how we think. And a lot of times, people's responses are based in they're afraid. And I know that because I lived in that world. And that's my people, right? So when a person's upset, they're not coming to tell me about me. I already know about me. They're coming to tell me in the only language they know how about what matters to them. And if I'm not at risk, I can step inside that space, maybe touch nose to nose, maybe ask a good question, maybe stay silent, but respectful, because it is about the dignity of the other and the journey that the other is in and finding a way to celebrate that.
So consider this the next time someone misinterprets your good intention. The problem may have more to do with them than actually you. That is the final word for this edition of Studio 5. Until next time, reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye.